Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss hemorrhagic disorders. So what is the definition of bleeding disorder or hemorrhagic diathesis? These are a group of disorders which are characterized by defective hemostasis with abnormal bleeding. The bleeding can be in the form of spontaneous, which is small hemorrhage into skin and mucous membrane, and they are called as petechiae, purpura or ecchymosis. Or there may be excessive external or internal bleeding following trivial trauma and surgical procedures like hematoma, hemarthrosis, etc. This is a picture diagram of petechiae. Here you can see the pinpoint hemorrhages over the skin. And this is a picture of hematoma where there is large collection of blood. Now before knowing about the bleeding disorder, you must know about the normal hemostasis. So the first and foremost thing which occurs in normal hemostasis after injury is vasoconstriction. Here you can see this is a blood vessel. You can see the endothelium, basement membrane, arteriolar smooth muscles. So at the site of injury there will be a reflex vasoconstriction. There will be an endothelin release which causes vasoconstriction. The endothelin will be released from endothelial cells, as well as the extracellular matrix and collagen can also release serotonin, which causes vasoconstriction. After vasoconstriction, there will be a primary hemostasis where there is formation of temporary platelet plug. So here you can see at the site of injury the platelets are adhered, then there will be a shape changes of platelet, granule release, there will be a recruitment of more platelet, and then there is formation of hemostatic plug after aggregation of platelet, and this is a temporary hemostatic plug which can be easily removed. The third stage is secondary hemostasis. Here in addition to platelet there is deposition of fibrin to make a permanent plug or a more robust plug. So there will be the chain of events here are release of tissue factor, then phospholipid complex expression, thrombin activation, fibrin polymerization, and then there is formation of secondary hemostatic plug. Final is thrombus and antithrombotic events. So polymerization of fibrin and platelet aggregate form a solid permanent plug to prevent any further bleeding or hemorrhage. At this stage, counter-regulatory mechanisms like tissue plasminogen activator are set into motion to limit the hemostatic plug to the site of injury only, and it will not let this phenomena to be generalized. This is the normal coagulation cascade. We all know that there are two pathways, intrinsic and extrinsic. Extrinsic will be initiated after the release of tissue factor and intrinsic after the collagen exposure. Now, which are the causes of hemorrhagic diathesis? Hemorrhagic diathesis due to vascular abnormality, due to platelet abnormality, due to disorder of coagulation factor, due to fibrinolytic defect, or combination of all these, which is seen in DIC, that is disseminated intravascular coagulation. Now, hemostatic mechanisms have two primary functions: to promote local hemostasis at the site of injured blood vessel and to ensure that the circulating blood remains in fluid state while in the vascular bed, so to prevent the occurrence of generalized thrombosis. So there must be a fine balance between promoters of local hemostasis and prevention of generalized thrombosis. The formation of hemostatic plug is a complex mechanism and it involves maintenance of a delicate balance among 5 components: blood vessel wall, platelets, plasma coagulation factors inhibitors, and fibrinolytic system. Anything that interfere with any of these components result in defective hemostasis with abnormal bleeding. To establish a definitive diagnosis, following scheme is followed generally. First is comprehensive clinical evaluation, then series of screening tests for assessing the abnormalities in various components, and finally specific tests to pinpoint the cause. So first is about investigation of disordered vascular hemostasis. For that we can go for bleeding time and Hess capillary resistance test, also known as tourniquet test. So in bleeding time, with the help of lancet, we prick the 1 mm deep wound in the skin in the forearm or in the ear lobule, and the blood is wiped with the help of blotting paper until the bleeding stops, and the time taken is recorded. That is your bleeding time. In the tourniquet test, we just inflate the blood pressure cuff on the arm of a patient to a point midway between systolic and diastolic pressure for 5 minutes, and if there is 20 or more petechiae per inch of the surface, that considered as a positive tourniquet test. The second is investigation of platelet and platelet function. So there are screening tests which include peripheral blood platelet count, bleeding time, examination of fresh blood film to see the morphological abnormalities of platelet. So here you can see the peripheral smear made from peripheral blood, and here you can see the platelets which are very tiny purple or blue color dots. The special tests for platelet abnormalities are platelet adhesion test, aggregation test, granular content of the platelets and their release, and platelet coagulant activity. Then investigation of fibrinolytic system. There must be estimation of fibrinogen, fibrin degradation product in the serum, ethanol gelation test, euglobin or whole blood lysis time. More specific tests include functional tests. Now coming to hemorrhagic diathesis due to platelet disorder. Due to reduction in the number of platelet, there may be various forms of thrombocytopenias. Thrombocytopenia is defined as a reduction in the peripheral blood platelet count below the lower limit of normal platelet count. The normal platelet count is from 1.5 lakh to 4.5 lakh per microliter. Now, which are the causes of thrombocytopenia? First is impaired platelet production, which can be because of generalized bone marrow failure. That is, the examples are aplastic anemia, leukemia, myelofibrosis, etc. Or there is selective suppression of platelet production only, for example, certain drugs or alcohol. The second important thing is accelerated platelet destruction, which can be because of immunological mechanism like immune thrombocytopenic purpura, drug induced, or secondary immune thrombocytopenias, which are because of post-infection, SLE, AIDS or lymphomas. Or there is increased consumption, for example in DIC, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, giant hemangiomas, etc. In case of splenic sequestration, there will be thrombocytopenia. Because of splenomegaly, there will be a peripheral pooling of blood or dilutional loss. When there is massive transfusion of old stored blood to the bleeding patients, there will be thrombocytopenia. Now coming to hereditary coagulation disorder. Two of the most common hereditary coagulation disorder are the X-linked disorder, classic hemophilia or hemophilia A, which is because of inherited deficiency of factor 8, and Christmas disease or hemophilia B because of inherited deficiency of factor 9. Classic hemophilia or hemophilia A, this disorder is inherited as a sex-linked recessive trait. Clinically, it is seen in male, while females are usually carriers. The chances of a proven carrier mother passing on the abnormality to her children is 50% for each son and 50-50 for each daughter. So this is a picture diagram. Here you can see the chances of passing the disease to a female and male child is 50-50. The female child will behave as a carrier while the son will have disease. Now pathogenesis. There is quantitative reduction of factor 8 in 90% of cases, while 10% cases have normal or increased level of factor 8, but there is reduced activity. Factor 8 is synthesized in hepatic parenchymal cells and regulates the activation of factor 10 in intrinsic coagulation pathway. Normal hemostasis requires 25% of factor 8 activity. Clinically, bleeding for hours or days after the injury is seen. The severity of the disease correlates well with the plasma level of factor 8 activity. Hemophilic bleeding can involve any organ but occur most commonly as recurrent painful hemarthrosis and muscle hematoma, and sometimes as hematuria. Spontaneous intracranial hemorrhage and oropharyngeal bleeding can be seen, but they are very rare. Laboratory findings include whole blood coagulation time, which is prolonged in severe cases, prothrombin time usually normal, activated partial thromboplastin time is typically prolonged, specific assay for factor 8 shows lowered activity. Treatment include factor 8 concentrate or plasma cryoprecipitate. Now Christmas disease or hemophilia B, it is inherited deficiency of factor 9, rarer than hemophilia A. Inheritance pattern and clinical feature of factor 9 deficiency are indistinguishable from those of classic hemophilia. accurate laboratory diagnosis is critical because hemophilia B require treatment with different plasma fraction. Bioassay of factor 9 reveals lowered activity. Treatment include fresh frozen plasma or a plasma enriched with factor 9. The complications are hepatitis, chronic liver disease and AIDS. May activate the coagulation system and cause thrombosis and embolism. So these are the complications of treatment. Now coming to von Willebrand's disease. It is the most common hereditary coagulation disorder occurring due to qualitative or quantitative defect in von Willebrand factor. The von Willebrand factor comprises the larger fraction of factor 8 and von Willebrand factor complex which circulates in the blood. Though the two components of factor 8 von Willebrand factor complex circulate together as a unit and perform the important function in clotting and facilitate platelet adhesion to subendothelial collagen, von Willebrand factor differs from factor 8. The gene is located at chromosome 12 while the gene of factor 8 is on X chromosome. The von Willebrand factor is synthesized in the endothelial cells, megakaryocytes and platelets but not in the liver cells. The main function of von Willebrand factor is to facilitate the adhesion of platelet to subendothelial collagen, while factor 8 is involved in activation of factor 10 in the intrinsic coagulation pathway. Clinical features include spontaneous bleeding from mucous membrane and excessive bleeding from wounds. There are 3 types. Type 1 disease is the most common and is characterized by mild to moderate decrease in plasma von Willebrand factor, around 50% of activity. The synthesis of von Willebrand factor is normal, but the release of its multimer is inhibited. Type 2 disease is much less common and is characterized by normal or near normal levels of von Willebrand factor, which is functionally defective. Type 3 disease is extremely rare and is the most severe form of the disease. These patients have no detectable von Willebrand factor activity and may have sufficiently low factor 8 level. Laboratory findings include prolonged bleeding time, normal platelet count, reduced plasma von Willebrand factor concentration, defective platelet aggregation with ristocytin and an antibiotic, and reduced factor 8 activity. Now the final entity is disseminated intravascular coagulation. It is also termed defibrillation syndrome or consumption coagulopathy. It is a complex thrombohemorrhagic disorder occurring as a secondary complication in some systemic disease. Etiology: first is massive tissue injury, for example obstetrical syndromes, massive trauma, metastatic malignancies and surgery. Second is infections, especially endotoxemia, gram-negative and meningococcal septicemia, certain viral infections, malaria and aspergillosis. Widespread endothelial damage can also cause DIC, like in aortic aneurysm, hemolytic uremic syndrome, severe burns, etc. And miscellaneous conditions like snake bite, shock, acute intravascular hemolysis or heat stroke. Now, what is the pathogenesis of DIC? First, there is activation of coagulation by release of tissue factor. Second, there will be a thrombotic phase in which endothelial damage from the various thrombogenic stimuli causes generalized platelet aggregation and adhesion with resultant deposition of small thrombi and emboli throughout the microvasculature. Then the third stage is consumption phase, where the early thrombotic phase is followed by a phase of consumption of coagulation factors and platelets. And finally, there is secondary fibrinolysis. As a protective mechanism, fibrinolysis system is secondary activated at the site of coagulation, and secondary fibrinolysis causes breakdown of fibrin, resulting in formation of fibrin degradation products in the circulation. So this is a picture diagram. Here you can see after endothelial damage there is activation of coagulation, platelet aggregation. There will be microthrombi in circulation, and which will lead to thrombotic phase. Then there will be a consumption phase when there is secondary fibrinolysis, and there will be a consumption of coagulation factor, platelets, and there is appearance of fibrin degradation products. So this is again a picture diagram. Here you can see how the intravascular coagulation is initiated. You can see the tissue injury, sepsis or endothelial injury causes initiation of extrinsic coagulation pathway or intrinsic coagulation pathway. Once there is intravascular coagulation, there will be consumption of clotting factors and platelet, which causes bleeding. There will be a plasmin activation and fibrin degradation products, which can cause inhibit platelet aggregation, thrombin and fibrin polymerization, which can also lead to bleeding. There will be a microvascular occlusion, which can cause ischemic tissue injury and microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. Clinically, bleeding is the most common manifestation. Organ damage can be occurred due to ischemia, and there will be a thrombosis in larger arteries and veins. In laboratory findings, the platelet count is low. The peripheral blood smear will show cystocytes and fragmented red cells due to damage caused by trapping and passage through the fibrin thrombi which is present in the vessels. Prothrombin time, thrombin time and activated partial thromboplastin time are all prolonged. Plasma fibrinogen levels are reduced due to consumption in microvascular coagulation, and fibrin degradation products are raised due to secondary fibrinolysis. So this is all about bleeding disorders. Thank you all.